All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start off with the exploration. Okay, so go ahead and do the first 6 problems. Should be pretty straightforward. You all know slope-intercept form. That's the y equals mx plus b. So go ahead and write your equations out, inputting that information in for the first 6 problems. Go ahead. Okay, so the general formula for slope-intercept is y. Let me do a different color. Y equals mx plus b. I guess I could do it down here by where it says slope-intercept form. That would make most sense, wouldn't it? So y equals mx plus b. What does this m stand for? Yep.
X.
No, it's next to x. What does it stand for? What's this m represent?
Slope.
Yeah, that's the slope. Good. And then the b?
Y-intercept.
Yeah, that's the y-intercept. Okay. So m is a slope, b is a y-intercept, okay? So as I'm plugging stuff in, if it says write an equation in slope-intercept form, you should still see that y and x there. You should see numbers in place of the m and b. So on number 1, I have y equals 0x plus 9. You would also just see this because 0 times anything is going to be 0. You could see this as y equals 9. Okay, but that's kind of a special case one. Okay, number 2, I have y equals m is negative 1 x plus b, which is plus 0. You could also leave off that plus 0 part and just see y equals negative 1x. Those are kind of the 2 weird ones where one of the pieces is a 0, so you just kind of don't write that term. Okay. Number 3 is back to a normal one, so we have y equals 2x minus 3. For number 4, I want to ask you if this is correct. So just give me a thumb up for yes, a thumb down for no. Is this correct? Give me a thumb up for yes, thumb down for no. Okay, I see almost all no's. The answer is actually yes, it is true. It is right. It is correct. Does y equals mx plus b, is y equals mx plus b the same thing as y equals b plus mx? Does it matter what order I add things in? Doesn't matter what order I add things in, right? Addition's addition. Okay? So even if you flip-flop them around, it is still correct. I want you to realize that. Okay? The important part is the slope has to go next to x. The y-intercept has to be by itself. It would be incorrect, so don't write this down, but it would be incorrect if I did y equals 7x minus 3. Right? Do you see how those two things are different? Okay, if I flip-flop the y-intercept and put it next to x, then it is incorrect. But if I just flip-flop the pieces, it's not necessarily incorrect. Okay? All right, number 5, we have y equals 4x minus 2. And then last but not least, number 6, I clicked the wrong button. Number 6, we have y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Okay. Any questions? Okay, cool. So this unit is all about being able to take the information they give you and being able to do something with it. Okay? So you will be given various formulas that we can use, and then you will be given some information. So based off of that information, you have to know what formula you need to use and how to write the proper equation. Okay? So we looked here at just simply being given the slope and given the y-intercept and writing slope-intercept form. Okay? I want you to recognize that 7 through 12 are almost exactly the same. Okay? They just give you the information in a little bit of a different way. Okay? So you are given the slope on 7 through 12. You are given the y-intercept on 7 through 12, but you have to be able to pull that information out in a little bit of a different way than what we were given in the first 6 problems, okay? So work together in your groups. I want you guys to write your equations for 7 through 12. So I would highly suggest, okay, you organize your problem this way. So go through together in your group, say, okay, all right, guys, what's my M? And then put M equals. And then say, okay, guys, what's my B? And then put B equals. And then go ahead and write your Y equals MX plus B. Okay? So that's probably the best plan of attack there. Decide what your M is, decide what your B is, write out your equation. Okay? All right, you guys go ahead and do 7 through 12 together with your groups. Go ahead. All right, so I just want to look at a couple problems here. Okay? So number 7, let's go ahead and look at that one. So slope, is it going to be positive or negative? Just by looking at the graph, you should be able to tell me that. Is it going to be positive or negative? It's going to be negative. Okay? So I know my slope is negative. It looks like I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. So negative 4 over 1 is the same as negative 4. My y-intercept, this is my y-axis right here, right? This is my up and down axis. So I'm looking for a y-intercept is where my line intercepts the y-axis or intersects the y-axis. So that's right here at negative 1. So my b here is going to be negative 1. So then I plug straight into my formula. Y equals negative 4x plus a negative 1 is the same thing as just minus 1. You can write it as minus 1 if you want. Okay, let's look at 8. Okay, 8. My slope. Is my slope going to be positive or negative? Come on, guys. It's going to be positive. I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2. So 4 over 2 is the same as just 2, right? Or 2 over 1. My b, it's crossing my y-intercept right here in the middle at 0, 0. So my y-intercept is going to be 0. So I just have y equals 2x. And then you can put plus 0 there if you want to. You don't have to put it there. It's fine either way. Then I want to jet down and look at number 11. Okay. So it looks like my slope here is up 1 over 2. So positive 1/2. My b is crossing right there at negative 2. So I have y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Okay, you guys get the picture? Okay. What do you notice about all of the y-intercepts? The ordered pairs? If you look at the graph, all of the ordered pairs for the y-intercepts are what? 0, comma, something, right? That's how we should know that it is a y-intercept, right? You should be able to look at an ordered pair, and if you see a 0 in for x, you know that that's the y-intercept, okay? So I will teach, so let's go ahead and flip to the second page. I will teach you a way to do this. I think next class, I will teach you a way to do this if you're not given one of these special ordered pairs. But for 13, 14, and 15, we are given one of the special ordered pairs. If you ever see x as 0, so on 13 that would be this, on 14 that would be this, on 15 that would be this, right? If you ever see that ordered pair where x is 0, you know that that is the y-intercept. Okay? Because remember, the y-intercept is where x is 0. Okay? So what's the piece of information that I'm missing from this in order to be able to write my equation? I have the y-intercept from that ordered pair. What's the piece of information I'm missing in order to be able to write my equation? Slope, right? And can I find slope from 2 points? I sure can. So let's go ahead and do that. So on 13, I first have to find my slope. So m equals, remember fraction bar and 2 minus signs. And then stick your y's up on top. So y minus y, so negative 4 and 4. And then your x's on bottom, 0 and 8. And if you want to flip-flop them, that's fine. Okay, but -4 minus 4 is -8 on top. 0 minus 8 is -8 on bottom. And then -8 divided by 8, or excuse me, -8 divided by -8 is a positive 1. So my slope is a positive 1. What's my b? -4, good. So my m we figured out is 1. B we know is -4 from that ordered pair. And then we can put it straight in. Y equals 1x minus 4. All right, you guys go ahead and do 15. Go ahead and do 15 together with your groups. All right, you can go ahead and check your answer on the board. I find my slope first. That's positive 1 over 4. I know from my ordered pair where x is 0 that my y-intercept is 2. And then I can write my equation from there. Okay. So I want to look at a different variety of the same exact problem. Okay. So let's skip the next section for now. We'll come back to it in a minute. And let's look at number 19. Okay. Because I want you to see similarities from the problems that we just did to these problems that we're looking at right now. Okay. So this throws some math jargon at you, okay? If you remember from when we did function notation, remember function notation, where is my input in function notation? Just remember, inputs and outputs. Inputs are, yeah, Josh? Yeah, so my inputs would be the 0 and 4. They would be the numbers inside the parentheses. Right, and then my outputs are the numbers on the opposite side of the equal sign. AKA, the x's are the numbers inside the parentheses. The y's are the numbers on the opposite side of the equal sign. Okay, so I want you to recognize anytime you see an ordered pair given in function notation, it is the same thing as the ordered pair x comma y. So this would be 0 comma -5. This one would be 4 comma -3. Okay, so anytime you're given something in function notation, don't let it scare you. I know there's a lot of math jargon going on in there, but it is very simply those ordered pairs. And then you can do the same exact thing. So you know your b is -5. You can find your slope from the two ordered pairs and move forward from there. Okay. So no need to go through the rest of that, but I want you to see that those are ordered pairs. Okay. All right, so two big skills today. Can you write an equation given a variety of information? Okay. And then second big skill of the day. So we've done that. Second big skill of the day. Can you translate into slope-intercept form from standard form? So that's what 16, 17, and 18 are. Okay. So let's look at 16. So if I think about slope, excuse me. If I think about slope-intercept form, slope-intercept form is what again? Oh my gosh. You guys want some jumping jacks or something? Wake you up, get your blood pumping? What's slope-intercept form? Good, y equals mx plus b. What is the big glaring part of that? Like, what's the one thing that if you look at an equation, you're like, oh yeah, that's slope-intercept form because y has to be by itself, right? So that's the big glaring thing that I have to be staring at in order to know that slope is by itself, or excuse me, that slope-intercept form is happening, okay? So if I'm ever given any other kind of function or equation, I know that if it says slope-intercept form, y has to be by itself. So that's where the warm-up problems number 1 and 2 come into play, right? We need to be able to solve equations with multiple variables for a single variable. So let's go ahead and do that on 16. So if I'm trying to get y by itself, what do I need to get rid of first? The x, good. So let's get rid of 3x. So 3x is positive. In order for me to get rid of it across the equal sign, I have to do an opposite operation. So I have to subtract it. Okay. So 3x minus 3x is gone. I'm left with 2y on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, are 16 and 3x like terms? They are not. So I'm just going to write it like I see it. I see 16 minus 3x. Okay. And then my last step in getting y by itself, 2y is multiplication. So opposite operation is divide by 2 on every piece. And then I have y equals 16 divided by 2 is 8. Negative 3 divided by 2 is just going to stay like that. Negative 3 over 2x. Just for kicks, come over to the side of that problem, and I want you to just sketch a quick graph of that. So let's go over beside it now that we've written the equation and sketch a quick graph of it. Remember, B is where you begin, M is where you move. So what's my B or y-intercept? For B is the number all by itself. So what's my B or my y-intercept? Guys are all still graphing. What's the number all by itself in my equation, guys? You are all asleep. Welcome back from fall break. What is the number without a variable in the equation? Somebody, please tell me. 8. Thank you. Okay. So we're going up 8 because it's positive. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my y-intercept. And then my slope, the number with x, is negative 3 over 2. So that's going to go down 3 over 2. So let me go over 2 here. So down 1, 2, 3 over 2. That's good enough for a quick sketch. Okay. All right, good. So now, don't we know both? We know going back and forth. We know going from an equation to a graph, and we know graph to an equation. So now we've kind of completed the cycle. We can go back and forth no matter what somebody asks me to do. I can do pretty much anything with slope-intercept form at this point. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead and do 17 and 18 together with your groups. You do not have to graph, so just put it into slope-intercept form. And then I would also ask you identify M and B. Okay, so you don't need a graph, but put it into slope-intercept form, and then identify M and B. Go ahead. All right, let's look at 17. Okay, so 17 getting y by itself, I would have to get rid of the 4x first, so I subtract 4x over. So I'm negative 7y. Make sure you keep that negative with it. Negative 14 and negative 4x are not like terms, so negative 14 minus 4x. And then I'm going to get y all by itself, so I need to divide by negative 7 on every piece. And I end up with y equals negative divided by negative is a positive 2. Again, negative divided by negative is a positive. 4 over 7 is not going to divide, nor will it reduce. So I'm just going to leave it 4 over 7 and then plop the x out beside it. So then I can identify M and B. My M, my slope, is 4 over 7. My B, my y-intercept, is 2. Then I could easily graph from there if I wanted to. 18 is a little bit of a weird one. What is 18 missing? An x, right? 18 is missing an x. Okay, so getting y by itself is a little simpler, but a little bit different. 18, I have like terms of 8y and 2y on the same side, so I'm going to combine those first. Mrs. Fisher and I were back here laughing because I'm pretty sure this was a typo, but we're just going to roll with it and act like we meant to do it. So, or I meant to do it.
What was it supposed to be?
It was probably supposed to be 8x plus 2y equals 19, but, you know. We're just going to act like we meant to do it. All right, so then getting y all by itself, I just need to divide by 10. I'll just blame it on Mrs. Fisher. She didn't make this, but it was her fault somehow. She did catch it. So we have y equals 19 over 10. Or you could do, what, 1.9? So what is my m here? If I don't have an x term, what's my m? have to be? Is the m in the problem? It's not. So what's m have to be? 0. So m is 0. My b is 1.9. Everybody show me a 0 slope with your arm. What does a 0 slope look like with your arm? Good. It's going to be horizontal, right? 0 slope would be horizontal. If it was undefined, that's when it would be vertical. Good. Very good. Okay.